I Wanted to Play, the movie that made Eddie Vedder become a musician. Every musician has that one musical memory that set them off on a path towards greatness, an artist, album, or song that inspired their young selves to pursue the artistic aims of music. For Pearl Jam frontman Eddie Vedder, you might assume that his grunge journey started seeing the likes of Black Flag play local punk shows in Washington. However, his true motivation for picking up a guitar for the first time came from much more mellow origins. Pearl Jam has always been an outlier within the American grunge scene. When the style emerged from the American Northwest, the vast majority of groups who populated the scene were playing fast, loud, and punk-adjacent music. Grunge was always tied to the sound of small, sweaty rooms in local music venues, and even when groups like Nirvana introduced the style to the mainstream, it always retained that abrasive, grassroots sound. Pearl Jam, in contrast, was much broader in their musical taste, and the style that achieved mainstream recognition was much closer to stadium rock than grassroots punk. This diversion from the norms of grunge came largely from the influence of frontman and songwriter Eddie Vedder. From a young age, Vedder has fostered an incredibly broad musical taste, incorporating everything from the Ramones to Joni Mitchell. In fact, it was the influences of singers like Mitchell, Bob Dylan, and the band who first inspired Vedder to greatness after he was taken to see the 1978 concert film The Last Waltz as a child, directed by Martin Scorsese. The Last Waltz documented a performance by the band at San Francisco's Winterland Ballroom. The farewell show featured the band alongside a host of other musical stars, including the likes of Dylan and Mitchell. A 13-year-old Eddie Vedder was utterly infatuated with the sights and sounds emanating from the silver screen. I remember my uncle took me to see The Last Waltz, and there was so much within that 2-hour film, Vedder later recalled. People like Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Ron Wood, Joni Mitchell, Van Morrison, and Muddy Waters, so it planted a lot of seeds. The film is incredibly diverse in its musical offerings, drawing upon a range of differing styles and artists. Vedder has carried that sonic diversity throughout his career with Pearl Jam, recalling its power. The frontman shared, "There were all kinds of little detours into blues, and it was packed and emotional. You could feel the emotion because it was their last concert and, Scorsese did it so it looked great. I saw it in a kind of empty theater in Chicago. I was 13 or 12. At that point, Vedder had never played an instrument, but that screening of The Last Waltz inspired a deep-rooted need for the preteen to learn to play the guitar.